Welcome to InShops Podden, the podcast for those of you who work with procurement, love procurement, or are simply trying to cope with procurement. My name is Joko Fürban, and InShops Podden is presented by Find My Factory. In today's episode, which we will do in English, we meet Marijn Overvest from Procurement Tactics and discuss AI procurement prompting, perhaps the fastest and most widespread way to use AI in procurement. However, AI prompting is not as easy as it first looks, but perhaps not as difficult as it seems either. We will sort all of this out together with Marijn. Welcome. Marijn Overvest, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Jacob.
Nice having you. Marijn, we always start with asking our guests to share a procurement memory experience. It could be positive, it could be negative. Do you have anything that pops to mind?
Yeah, I'm more the guy that always thinks about what did I do wrong, what can be better, rather than being proud of achievements. So in that sense, let me start with maybe a tip for the people that are relatively maybe new working in procurement, which brings me back to the days while I was working as a junior procurement professional myself. So my professional background is mainly within the FMCG sector. So I used to work at a large supermarket chain here in the Netherlands. For the people that are from the Netherlands or visited the Netherlands, it's Albert Heijn. And in my early days working as a junior procurement professional, I was very eager to, I would say, put myself out there. So to make sure that that everyone knew my name, I was really anxious and really ambitious to I would say to deliver results. So by doing that, and of course I won't share all the details here in this meeting here, but by doing that, I switched a range of products towards an alternative supplier who had better pricing, but the mistake that I made there was that I did not give my current supplier a final chance to give their last bid to keep winning the products that they were delivering for quite a long period. And quite a long period was more than over a decade. So the mistake that I made there, by making a small amount of extra margin for my company in trying to prove myself, to feed my ego in that sense, was the mistake. Because the day after, when I woke up, when I gave the business to the alternative supplier, I had calls from my manager, the manager of my manager, the commercial director of the supplier, and the CEO of the supplier. And then from that moment on, I directly knew something was off and something was wrong. So if you're ever in a junior procurement professional situation where you want to switch suppliers, make sure to give your incumbent supplier always the last chance to maintain their business by giving them, in all honesty, the latest moment to quote lower versus the alternative.
Yeah, I think that's a very good principle, Marijn. And maybe adding to that, be mindful of this evil procurement savings ego that we always get struck by.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all been there at some points in our careers. But Marijn, today we're going to talk about AI and procurement and prompting in particular, and using these LLMs in order to do that. And to be very open here, Marijn, none of us are AI experts. So, but we would like to try anyway to give a bit of a view of what these things are. And technically, we may be a bit off, but just to provide some context, my understanding of these LLMs, large language models, is that they started from giving a set of words, making an estimation of what the next word most likely is, what it should be. That's the base. And then grew and grew and grew and grew. So the inputs is an extreme a lot of words, and what is the most likely next word, and then expands. So it's not just the next word, it's context and understanding language. And for me, the two big aspects that are interesting about LLMs now is that they accomplish two things. One is that they have sort of broken the language code. So computers can now communicate in languages and in all languages. And the second is that they enable us to have access to human knowledge that is hidden in text. And it could be things available on the web, It could be in a PDF. So it means that you can communicate with a computer in human language and get access to context and information in text.
Yeah, indeed. I
That's
could have
one
not explained this better.
Okay. So you're happy with that layman's explanation, Marijn?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Um, and when doing this, there's something called hallucinations. Should I continue? Do you have a view on what that is, Marijn?
I have a view on what that is, and in that sense, it's one of the most important, I would say, basic tips for if you're new into the world of prompting or using any generative AI solution. Of course, I would say by guessing what the logical next word will be, what the algorithm in that sense does, it also hallucinates, because if you think of what will be the likelihood of the next word, it's not that it's thinking of itself, it's only predicting. So in that sense, answers can be hallucinative, and in that sense, you should never stop thinking yourself while using any generative AI solution or while prompting. Yeah.
I think that's a very good summary, Marijn. It's not logic. LLMs are not logic. It's statistics, and they can get things wrong. And sometimes it's hard to see the errors. Sometimes it's very easy. The first versions of the ChatGPT were a bit funny, I think. Generating images, there has been this problem of number of fingers, right?
Yeah,
Because
indeed.
these models, they don't know how many fingers there are. It's just pure statistics.
Yeah.
So it's important to be very mindful on how to use the results and how to interpret the results.
No, in that sense, the one very easy, understandable example for everyone is the fact that if you just type in, take for example on the AI solution that I use the most, ChatGPT. If you just type in, "I'm on my way to the supermarket to buy a gallon of," then it will always predict that the next word will be probably milk or water. But especially on Fridays, it's more likely that I will buy a gallon of beer for my team here at Procurement Tactics rather than buying a gallon of milk. So in that sense, you should always think yourself of, okay, what is a logical explanation for the thing that's happening in that sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing also with these LLMs that you always get an answer. You always get an answer.
Yes.
And if that answer is based on limited information, it will be as convincingly presented as some of the other answers, but it would just be crap, right?
Yeah.
So just be mindful of how to use these things.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's LLMs, and that's hallucinations. And then the third question, which is the topic of today, is prompting. Yeah. So what is your view on prompting, Marijn?
Prompting. Okay. How long do we have today, Jacob?
No. Just 4 hours, Marijn. I'm very sorry. It's very time constrained.
Okay. Then let me think on what do I want to share, because I can keep continuing on this topic for hours, but let me not do that today. Yep. Prompting is, I would say, the most important skill for any procurement professional if you want to leverage the potential of any generative AI tooling or solution. Prompting is the way that you communicate with the algorithm to get the best answer back. Let me just share a personal example. And of course, we go into the procurement examples as well. But my wife and I recently got twins. The girls are 9 months old now. But because they're identical twins, they were born 1 month earlier versus regular kids. So this morning, we had some sleep issues. Every new dad has that. So in that sense, I tried to ask AI in that sense. Again, I use ChatGPT. So I asked ChatGPT, okay, my babies are 9 months old. They're identical twins. So actually they are not 9 months old, but they are 1 month behind in the way that they are in this world. They have sleep issues. Can you propose me 10 different things that I can do to make sure that I train them better on how to sleep longer during the night? So in that sense, if I only would have said, okay, I have babies that are 9 months old, can you give me 10 tips? I would also have had an answer, like you said earlier, indeed. But if you don't give enough context while prompting, you won't get the best answer back. So in that sense, and this is just a personal example. Again, we go into the procurement examples later, but the more input you give before asking a question, that is what prompting is about on my behalf. So the more context you give before asking the question, the better the output will be, and the better you are as a person or as a procurement professional to prompt in that sense.
I agree. Very good overview. And it seems at a first glance that providing context is easy, but
Yeah.
actually good prompting is a bit tricky. I have a couple of examples later on that we'll come back to. But that is prompting, is the skill of getting the most output possible from these LLMs, such as GPT. And it's a very big difference in performance of if you're a skilled prompter or if you're just a new starter of these ChatGPT models.
Yes, for sure.
Fantastic. Before we dive into these models, is there anything else to consider? We talked about hallucinations. What about sensitive data? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think that especially on sensitive data, it's insanely important to make sure that you don't train the algorithm with the information that you put in. So again, on ChatGPT, there is an option in the settings where you say, okay, use the information that I add to the algorithm anonymously and don't use it for your training methods. So, for example, if I will be working at a retailer and I will drag in all my contracts, which of course I won't do, but if I would do that and the setting is that the algorithm isn't trained, you would be potentially able to do a contract comparison. Again, I know we train large corporates with Procurement Tactics and also smaller companies. I know that the majority of the companies has I would say, a policy on what to put in AI toolings and what not. But in that sense, we have trained a company, and of course, we cannot say which company and which team member, but where we train a company, a procurement team, on how to use generative AI solutions, where one of the team members dragged all the contracts within ChatGPT without anonymizing it. So in that sense, if you do that, you will be sure that your competitor becomes even smarter, as they probably already were. So in that sense, to use it in an, I would say, good way is very, very, very important.
Yeah, be mindful of that. Unless you really know how to work the settings, that what
Yes.
you enter into the LLMs
Yeah.
is in some extent made available
Yeah.
to everybody else. No, I
Yeah.
think that's a very good caution to put in there.
Mm.
Super, but that's LLMs. And one aspect of this is, of course, this is ChatGPT we're talking about. There are some tools out there, both part of the suite suppliers, the Coupa, those guys, and very niche players also that are extremely advanced.
Yes.
So why is it still relevant, do you think, Marijn, to talk about just basic prompting? Aren't we past that?
I don't believe that we are past that based on what we see. So to answer this question, I should elaborate a bit more on what we do with the company that I founded a couple of years ago. So at Procurement Tactics, we train procurement teams from all over the world. If I look at the AI adoption maturity, yes, there are some, I would say, early adopters who are already using the type of AI software tooling that you just mentioned, but these are only exceptions. So the large majority of the procurement teams that we see, that we train, and that we are in contact with on a daily basis, they are in the phase of experimentation. And what I mean with that is that procurement professionals are in the phase where they start experimenting with prompting for personal productivity together with prompting for in all the steps of the procurement process. So in that sense, yes, for the early adopters who have 40 hours a week of time on following the latest trends on AI in procurement, it's probably old-fashioned to only talk about prompting. But for the wide variety of teams that we see around the world, prompting is still I would say, the key skill to improve.
Fully agree. Fully agree. And I think it can be used by everybody, right? Everybody
Indeed.
in the complete procurement organization. These niche tools may be applied to a quarter of the people, a half the people, or 10% of the people. I have a quote that I always bring up in these circumstances. It's from The Economist. And they wrote something like this regarding the AI fight, if you will, between the US and China. The true winner, they wrote, the true winner of the AI race, however, may not be the country that invents the best models. It's more likely to be the country where government, businesses, and ordinary people use AI at scale every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very good perspective. If you compare two procurement organizations, one of them don't use any of the niche tools, but all the procurement professionals use ChatGPT several times every day. Compare that to another organizations where they don't use LLMs at all, but use the niche tools. I will go for the first one, actually, because it just multiply on everything you do in all aspects of your work life and in your product. And if we become specific, Marijn, actually doing prompting related to procurement, do you have any examples of how you could do this?
For sure. And I think that first and in that sense, I know that procurement professionals from around the world, they and of course there are exceptions, but the wide majority is very process oriented. So we like the process before we start to do things, right? So if we look at the procurement process of procurement people from around the world, and of course this differs a bit per company and per team, but how does the logical steps of the procurement process work? You do market research, you do the RFI where you see, okay, which suppliers can deliver the products or the services that I want. You go for an RFQ because you need the quotes to even start your negotiation preparation, the negotiation itself. After that, you start creating a contract, and after creating the contract, you will start the supplier relationship management phase. And then it's the end of 2026 and the cycle starts again. Of course, not for all your tenders or for all your products or services that you buy, but these are the steps that I would say determine a large majority of the work that we do on a yearly basis. Then if you zoom in a bit on where can prompting add the most of value, the easy question or the easy answer to this question is it can add value in all the different steps, but in the sense that where we are today, I would rather say that what if we would have this conversation again in 2 years? Then I would expect that AI will help us from a procurement manager's perspective to automate tasks, for example, in the RFI, in the RFQ phase, and when we talk about the creation of contracts. And I think that prompting will stay insanely important in the creation of your strategy, in doing market research, in negotiation preparation and negotiation role playing, and in the way that we do supplier relationship management. Of course, there's a personal angle to this as well, but let me come back to that later. First, let me start with the prompting part. Then again, an example of how we see that procurement teams that we train use it is that prompting is being used to start negotiation preparation and to do role playing, for example, in the negotiation part itself. I did not do that personally before this meeting, but when we have important sales meetings, for example, at Procurement Tactics, I never enter a sales meeting with a procurement director before starting the full role playing in ChatGPT. So if you have the paid version of ChatGPT, of which of course not everyone in the world has, it's of course connected to internet. So you just add LinkedIn titles, as much as information on the person that you're negotiating with, and in that sense, it helps me from a perspective on that I already know what is happening or what could potentially happen from a personal perspective on the scenarios that could occur in the session. Why is this important to me? Because although I have been working within the procurement sector for over 15 years, I would not say that I'm a good negotiator. I tend to value the personal relationship over the best deal and over the content in the conversation. If I know that about myself, it is important to do the role playing and to know about the scenarios before entering a negotiation, because it can help me to adjust and to think faster in the session, which helps my final outcome. This is again how we see procurement people use it, and a personal example. But this is why I asked in the beginning, how many hours do we have? I could share more examples on different steps in the procurement process as well. But let me first maybe give the word back to you to see if you have any follow-up questions or how you want to proceed.
Yeah, and I feel the potential number of hours just clicking away because I have so many ideas and questions regarding this. But I think just one question: do you do this role playing in voice or do you type?
Good question. And in this sense, I also have been learning. So the first year that I used ChatGPT, I only did it typing. And now I only do it with an actual conversation. So I'll use my voice. I don't use my I don't use my laptop in that sense and my fingers. So it's only voice because why did I switch to that? Because it's faster and it's more efficient. And in a world where time is an important scarcity variable, it's nicer to just use voice. And when I like an answer, I'll do copy paste it sometimes in my notes to make sure that I can look back at it next week.
And it's it's faster, and it's also much more similar to the actual situation, right?
Indeed.
So you can also tweak the GPT a bit to be, let's do it again, but be more aggressive, please.
Yeah,
Or
indeed.
let's do it again, but be more evasive. Or, you could really practice negotiations in different ways. And
Yes.
of course, there are tools that are extremely good and cool in practicing negotiation skills that you can use, but you can
Yeah.
also use ChatGPT and take it pretty far.
Sure. Yeah.
And another example is where there are niche tools, if contract evaluation. And we talked about that you need to be very careful with ChatGPT, but some people have access to a co-pilot installation in their company, and then you can set that up so it's pretty safe.
Yes.
I have a couple of friends in the procurement business, and they have a prompt in Copilot that is like 1 page long
Yeah.
that have improved, instructing exactly what Copilot should do once you enter a document, compared to this template, compared to that template. Limitation of liability, this is our policy.
Yeah.
And so the usage of ChatGPT is extremely wide, actually. But you
Yes.
need to work with the prompting.
Yeah. No, for sure. So I would say that you have the option again on ChatGPT to build your biography there. So you can put extra information on who you are. So talking about this, given my earlier example about the twins, I should have been putting there that my twins are identical and that they are 1 month behind. Actually, after this podcast, I will directly do it, because every time that the more input you give in your biography, the more context ChatGPT has to give you personalized and standardized advice. And then, of course, for the different tasks within the procurement process, take for the example of your friends using the specified prompt on how to create contracts. That's insanely helpful to indeed use the same prompt every time for, in this case, kind of repeating almost the same tasks. Of course, creating a contract is a repetitive task, but creating a contract for 100 different suppliers is in that sense always different. But if you make sure that you have the right context in the prompt to get the best results out of it, it's really, really, really helpful. Yeah.
And you can use threads as well, right? So say that you do a new project, we want to roll out a new process for category management.
Yeah.
Then you can start with a sort of lengthy prompt. This is the background, these are the objectives, and then you can start asking questions, right? What about this? Second opinion on this? What are the main risks?
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, then you can come back to that thread.
Yes.
These things have now happened. What is your opinion on that? So then you don't need to re-enter everything that you already have, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have a pretty good expert in everything available at your fingertips. You just need to be very specific on what kind of context you have and what answers you want to have.
True, and one of the tips that I forgot earlier to share is that what we always do and how we train procurement teams as well is that if you are prompting, of course, we've discussed the importance of context and we discussed the importance of the quality of your question. But what we always do ourselves, but how we also train the teams is that we ask the algorithm before answering my question, ask me 3 follow-up questions that I will answer to you and then provide me with your answer back. Why is this? Because we can think as human beings that we gave enough context to get the best result out of the answer, but why don't we use the smartness of the algorithm to ask us 3 follow-up questions to even give us a better response? So in that sense, if you're relatively new to prompting or you don't do this yet while prompting, my tip will be to try to use this, experiment with it, and I'm sure that the results that you get back are way better.
So you ask the GPT to ask you follow-up questions.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. That's a meta variant of that. I came from a good friend of mine. He's very AI savvy, and he said that if say that you want to do a prompt on something that is reasonably complicated, what he does is that he opens up a new chat with GPT, new chat thread, and then he sort of writes, I want to create a prompt regarding this and this and this. Interview me with 10 questions regarding what I want to achieve. And then based on that, suggest a prompt.
Indeed.
So I did that. I haven't done that professionally yet. I did it for I'm a hobby triathlete. So I wanted to transform my training journal into a chat GPT thread. And I used Excel and all, Strava, all these applications. But then I just entered, I'm a triathlete, these injuries, I want to do some sort of log here. Interview me with 10 questions. And it's very, very good, the questions that ChatGPT asks.
Indeed.
And then I asked, no, do 10 more, and then 10 more. And then I had a prompt and a setup for this training diary that was just so much better than whatever I could have made up myself or Googled to. So I think it's a very good point you have, Marijn, to sort of use the ChatGPT to ask you for more information.
Yeah, excellent example. Yeah, indeed.
And of course, you have the sort of obvious things like you have 150 long environmental policy. Does this comply to our requirements? Just punch it in and you get it done, right? So we have those things as well. Super. And Marijn, coming back to the thing you said earlier about automating tasks, and we had the RFI, RFQ, all that sort of pretty manual stuff that is a big part of procurement's day-to-day. Will that automation be done by prompting, do you think, or will it be different tools in pure automation?
I think that again, if we would have this conversation like I shared earlier, if we would have this conversation in 2 years, I think that if we look forward, I think it's important to split for procurement professionals around the world, prompting and agentic AI or agents. Prompting helps us to do more tasks better with a higher quality output and faster. but it won't automate tasks.
Mm.
For example, agentic AI agents will help us to automate tasks. So, for example, take if I will be a procurement manager and I will need to check all the POs that I will be sending out and getting in on a weekly basis. Let's say it are 100. Now I need to check that. Probably I need to open the PDF, check if it's correct versus what we agreed, and then I would send an email back. Yes, perfect, thank you, it's okay. For sending the email back, I will probably use ChatGPT now because then the setup will be there. It's easier and it's faster. What agents will do is that they will automate tasks. In this example, again, it is already doable to use generative AI to check the PO for us, to send the email to the supplier saying rather if it's correct or incorrect, and sending a reminder after 1 or 2 weeks if it hasn't been changed or you don't have the right input yet. So where in the first example, we need to do things ourselves. And of course, you need to be cautious of, okay, what is the format of the email? Is there text in there that I want? In the second example, in the agentic era, tasks will be automated. And the only thing that we need to do is to set up the automations. And of course, once a week, maybe check if the automation is still running and if there are no hallucinations. So in that sense, when I said earlier, when we look at the procurement process, AI agents will help us to do the RFI, the RFQ, and for example, the contracting phase more efficient and automated. And the prompting part will be insanely important for the part where the human perspective plays a larger role in, again, negotiation preparation, negotiation itself, and supplier relationship management.
Yeah, I think that's a very good distinction. And also that prompting is about content, right? And
Yes.
information, understanding how things work. What do we do
Yeah.
now? Strategy. But the agents
Indeed.
is more the automations. Yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
that's a very good distinction to make. So, when we talked about prompting and we talked about agents and we have these niche tools, given your experience and your interactions with procurement teams all over the world,
Yeah.
where would you generally say that the teams are? Are they very mature? Are all of them using agents or none of them? Or
Yeah. It's funny that you ask that, and the answer will probably surprise you, but it also surprises me still a bit because yes, indeed, we train over 100 teams worldwide on how to leverage the potential of Gen AI within their procurement teams. It has been a couple of years ago that ChatGPT has been launched, and if you look at the solutions that there are worldwide now, when we talk about team AI tooling, there are several. So that is the situation externally. Then, if you look internally in the teams that we train and the teams that we see, the majority is still in the phase of prompting and making sure to leverage the potential of Gen AI for personal productivity and within the procurement steps while starting to use Gen AI tooling. That being said, we see only exceptions of teams that have AI tooling for their team incorporated in all the steps of their procurement process. So I think that if we look forward, why is this happening? First, the investments of Silicon Valley were into AI for persons. For example, ChatGPT came out, it's for personal productivity, like the quote that you shared earlier as well. The people can make use of it. And of course, there are some risks. Let's not go into all the details. We rather have a positive conversation. But if it's for personal use, it can be amazing. For the team's perspective, the investments have just came later. So what Silicon Valley and all the all the other countries in the world where tech is at the first place have been starting to invest in team AI tooling only after the launch of ChatGPT and after its success. So we are on the brink of, I would say, even seeing more companies that have AI tooling entering the world of procurement, but we also see that more and more teams will use it. Tooling, I mean, not generative AI and the prompting part, within all their workflows. But if we look at the teams today, it is an exception. So the teams that have it fully automated, fully incorporated, the tooling part, I mean, those are exceptions, which actually surprises me, but it's also logical if you look at the way that, the length that, for example, ChatGPT is out there.
So are you saying maybe that ChatGPT or those things are so good that it's not worth for the companies to yet use the niche tools, or?
I have had procurement directors calling me and to ask me, Marijn, do you advise me to already incorporate AI tooling of the huge software players or smaller players within all the steps of my procurement process? And then my honest answer is now, no, don't do it. I think it's smarter to wait maybe for 1 or 2 years, start with the upskilling of your team to make sure that they can leverage the full potential of generative AI, that they know how algorithms work, how to use it, how to prompt, because regardless of what the future will bring us and the way that those tools are built, prompting will always stay insanely important for personal productivity, for procurement productivity, but also in you. For example, take your friend which has the contract challenge. Also, if you have an AI tooling that will help you to create your contracts, that will automate that, it's important that you know how it works, how to use it, how to counter it, and how to check it. And all that is being done with prompting and using the potential of generative AI now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And ChatGPT can be used immediately, and you get benefits immediately. And some or most, depending on what service you read. Most of the AI initiatives fail for various reasons. So be a bit conservative regarding what you do. I think some of the small, fast, niche, cheap tools you can just try to keep up with what's going on.
Yes.
Be a bit, think through your business case before you take on the big initiatives. But
yes,
GPT is just zero barrier, zero cost. Just do it, right? And get the
no, indeed. So if I will be a procurement director listening to this podcast and I don't have a license for my team and I don't train them on how to use it, that I would say, and we are Dutchies, we are known around the world that we are very direct and bold. Sorry, but that's a shame. If you're a procurement director not enabling your team on to use it on a daily basis, that's a shame. But if you are considering to buy tooling for millions or 100,000s of euros or dollars, be reluctant and make sure that it totally fits your needs. And in that sense, if you are in doubt, my advice will be rather wait a year or two to buy the same product cheaper rather than doing that now. But enable your team to start using generative AI if they don't do it yet.
Very good. So let's assume that I go back to, I used to be a procurement director, CPO in my previous life.
Yeah.
So let's say that I'm back there and I meet you, a nice, clever, Dutch, bold, direct guy. What would your advice be for me then? Because I've talked to you and this prompting sounds fantastic. How do I get my team of 5 to 50, 500 people to use this at scale every day? What is the next steps for me as a procurement director?
Yeah, and the honest answer is that we just launched our trend report for 2026 with Procurement Tactics, where we look forward to 2026 and what are the things that we think that directors should do to be or to become future proof. I think it's a mix between hiring new people that have the ability to use the potential of generative AI or upskill the current team if they don't have the ability yet. So that could be fixed in two different ways. But with what I said earlier, if more and more tasks are automated, or we can do more tasks with generative AI, where will we use the time that we have left, or that we have more left in 2026 from a procurement perspective? And I truly believe that procurement professionals should use that time to get better relationships with their suppliers, to spend more time on the actual negotiation rather than only on preparing it. Of course, I have been in the game long enough. I know that preparation is more important than the actual conversation after, but deals are not being closed by AI. I know that there are toolings companies within the world of procurement who will disagree with me, and I can fully understand that. For example, a Walmart closes the smallest deals with AI, but large deals are closed by people. What people say and what people don't say is often equally important in a deal. And how can you know if something is important? By empathy and by looking at people. And the algorithm will never replace that. So I think that it's hiring new team members who have the ability to use the potential of AI. And if your team is not ready yet, train them and make sure that you hire people who have the right personal soft skills to build those relationships, and they do understand the other human perspective and the other human people on this world, rather than only hiring, I would say, technical guys that will become new procurement teams. So I don't expect that new procurement teams in 5 years will consist only of people that studied data engineering, but I do see a combination of people that studied psychology and data engineering, because I think you need both skills to be a perfect procurement professional that's ready for the future.
Yeah. And you need to have an understanding of analysis and compliance and all these things. And it's sort of a multi-role that very few people actually can fulfill, right? And you have the relationship with the stakeholder. All of us need to spend more time there. And
indeed.
I just feel that there is such a big strategic backlog in procurement related things regarding total cost, CO2, all these things, that I think procurement really will do well to automate 50% of the task, because we need to spend 50% more time on the things we don't have time for today.
If that would happen, I will quit my job. Yeah, it's not a job, but I will stop Procurement Tactics and I will start working as a procurement professional myself again, because I would love that. Yeah,
the future is so bright. It will be so fun.
That's for sure.
And adding to that, I think regarding the advice for procurement director or for everybody out there, I wasn't an early adopter, even though my background actually is in mathematics and AI. So I did some coding, 20 years back, doing artificial neural networks. But I was a bit slow to really get started on ChatGPT until I forced myself to use it every day. Just do something. Do something. And what you can do, of course, you can always open up ChatGPT and ask. So I'm a procurement person. This is my role. I just need to get started. Give me 10 suggestions for what I can do this week.
Exactly.
And or do what I did with my triathlon training diary. Just punch in, interview me with 10 questions, and then based on that, do a prompt that I can use for tracking how I use it. I just get started. I think it's like spend analysis tools. I'm a firm believer, and all these really cool tools are fantastic, but the big benefit is getting a lot of the procurement using the spend tool often. That's the big impact, I think. And I think the same here. Just get people to do prompting. Any prompting.
For sure.
So say, Marijn, that you're a procurement professional, and this sounds really, really fun. How do you get started? What is the next step?
My advice will be to start small and simple. When I started it myself, using it, I just I use Google Chrome to go to the internet. The moment I open Google Chrome, OpenAI is opened. So it's a tab that automatically opens when I open it. That helps me as a reminder, okay, I can use ChatGPT or AI for everything that I do. Then the next thing is that I had a small post-it next to my laptop hanging with a small text is, do I need to do this task myself, or can I use the help of generative AI? That also helped me on, every day, every hour, every 15 minutes, I saw that note and I thought, okay, oh yeah, this is something that I know I used to do myself, but now I can use, for example, help of ChatGPT. An presentation, creating a presentation, a storyline. I never do that myself. Of course, I think of the content in the presentation myself, but these things, for example, I always did that myself. So I took an hour to think, okay, I need to present to our investors. What do I present? What is a logical setup? Now I just ask AI and I have the answer in a minute. Just as a small reminder of how you can use it. And in that sense, of course, to bring it to the procurement perspective, within Procurement Tactics, we do have some reports that you can, from a procurement professional, if you just reach out to me either via LinkedIn or via email, which is probably somewhere underneath in text of this YouTube video or LinkedIn podcast, reach out to us, and we have, for example, one PDF with 75 procurement prompts. If you want to start tomorrow, reach out to us. I'll send it over to you, or my team sends it over, and you can start experimenting. So I think that the same applies for negotiation preparation. We also have a document on that. But I think start small, make sure to challenge yourself to use it more and more, and to link it to procurement. Happy to use our material if you want to be inspired.
Fantastic. Marijn, that was a very good summary. Normally we end with having tips or takeaways for the listeners, but I think you nailed it. So
okay. Thank you.
I think Marijn, we end it for today. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. It was an honor, and I'm looking forward to staying in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.